All right, welcome everyone. We're at Whitman Finance Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, December the 8th, 2020. It's 7 o'clock. We're meeting virtually with the Zoom platform. Just go over the agenda was distributed earlier. I won't go over the whole thing in the interest of time, but we'll go back to the agenda. We do have Mary Beth Carter here to present the request for a transfer for the reserve fund. I did email this to the full committee. It was sent to me by Lisa Green. And basically it's just a placeholder for this week because we really do have to hold it over to next week to take action. So everybody should have a copy of it. The transfer from, and I'll let Mary Beth take it from here and explain to the board the reasoning for the request. Go ahead.
You're muted, Mary Beth.
There we go. Better?
Very good.
Okay, thank you very much. So I told you last time we met that I've had quite a few changes within the department, the Treasurer Collector's Office. The benefits clerk has transferred. She's on vacation this week, and then she's going to the town clerk's office. So that opens a vacancy. The assistant treasurer collector is retiring on December 31st. And the payroll clerk has now decided that she would like to transfer to the benefits clerk. So that opens the position of the payroll clerk. So I'd like to get that position posted, and this is the perfect opportunity to look at outsourcing payroll. And we've talked about it over the years. It never eliminates a position because somebody has to be the gatekeeper. Somebody has to make sure we have all the new hire paperwork and enter the payroll into the system. Whether we went with a Harper's Payroll, ADP, or customized data services, somebody has to put in the input the information. But by outsourcing, the outsource company would do many functions. They would print the checks and do the quarterly taxes. They would file the state and federal, the VOIA payments that we make. They would do the W-2s and take a lot of the functions off of the payroll clerk. So in doing that, by outsourcing, I would post for a position less than what we have right now for 18 hours a week. I have gotten 3 proposals from Customized Data, ADP, and Harper's, and the amount that I'm looking for, and I never like to come to the FinCom for a reserve fund transfer, but the proposal is for $10,871.40. I also did a quick calculation for fiscal 22, looking at what I budgeted for the payroll clerk under the schedule that she works now. And then I ran a schedule based on the reduced 18 hours. And the savings for fiscal 22 would be approximately $13,812.84. So this is something, especially with all the changes we have going on, that I feel we need to do. And I feel this is the perfect opportunity. I would never want to outsource and reduce a current employee's hours. But while I have this change in the staffing, it's the perfect time in which to look at this.
I would consider your change in staffing a mass exodus. So,
I tell you.
Are you difficult to work with? Is that
Well, let me tell you, they work pretty hard. It's a fast-paced environment, I'll tell you that.
I can imagine. So yeah, we're a little concerned. $10,800 does represent 20% of the balance in the reserve fund. So, but obviously this is something that needs to be done. I mean, we can't not have payroll within the town. So I'll open it up to the board. John Galvin.
Yeah, I actually have 2 questions for you, Mary Beth. First of all, I'm assuming like the payroll services are a monthly fee. How long does $10,758 carry you? How long will that go for?
Right, so that's a 1 year. It's a $2,500 setup fee with this one particular company, and that's the annual cost above and beyond that is $8,371.40. Now that's based on 120 employees. We actually have 107. regular employees. Our payroll this week was 127. So it's all based each week on the amount that's processed. We have recently had quite a bit of details in town. So we could have weeks where it's, you know, quite a bit above that. And then when we do have recreation on in the summer, that's extra staffing that adds to the count. So while this is the quote based on 120, that number does fluctuate some, but that's an annual cost.
Okay, follow up then. The current position that you have right now is a full-time position. You're suggesting to make it basically a part-time position with no benefits. Is that a union position?
So in the union, that position is already a part-time position. We're not going from full-time to part-time. We're just reducing the part-time hours, but because they will be now under 20, 20 is the threshold now for insurance and benefit eligible.
Okay. So has the union been notified about this? Are they aware what you're considering and are they okay with it? I don't know, is that Lisa maybe?
Lisa, maybe, yeah, we spoke about this a little bit.
Right. So the position is already a part-time position. So the union really doesn't have any say in it because it's not going from full-time to part-time. It's already a part-time. It's just the hours are being reduced. So it's still remaining a part-time position. So the union really wouldn't have any objection to it because it's not going full-time to part-time.
Okay, are there any other questions? Like I said, we're going to hold this over to next week. So if there are other questions, I would like, to get them all. If someone has additional questions, I'm sure Mary Beth would come back into our meeting next week when we're prepared to vote. But, if not, we will let you go. And the information then you're going to fill out the final when you choose between those two. Yeah. Okay. And when is that decision going to be made?
I pretty much have made the decision on which
Okay.
one I want to go with. So, and Lisa has the form in triplicate, so I can get
Okay.
that filled out this evening, tomorrow morning, and put it in your mailbox and
Excellent.
be ready to go.
All right. We'll be ready to go for next Tuesday. Once we do the final vote, I'll bring it in the following day. So it'll be a week from tomorrow that you'll have it in your hand signed.
Okay, so I will wait then to post the position because if it's voted down, I need to advertise it for the higher amount of hours that we have now. So I'll hold off another week on that, but it's sort of time sensitive to get this all done if possible. But
I fully understand. Yep. Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, have a good night.
All right. Thanks.
Night, Mary Beth.
Good
All
night.
right. I admitted Mr. Joe Cunningham. I'm not quite sure who Mr.
Okay.
Cunningham
Yep.
is.
He is with one of the budget managers for, I believe,
Recreation.
Recreation. That's what I thought. Okay. Just making sure.
So
And
recreation
Kathleen
is,
Woodward is also recreation.
yep.
That's who I
And there is
recognize.
Kathleen Woodward. Thank you very much for joining us on our meeting and welcome to the town. We understand that you are ready to hit the ground running. We appreciate your courage starting a new position in the middle of a pandemic. So,
Yes,
I'll
one
take
wild
this-
time, that's for sure, for everybody.
right. So because you are new to this process and new to the meetings with the Finance Committee, I'll take this opportunity to go around the board and we'll just do a quick introduction, starting up with John.
Thank you.
So we have John Galvin, we have John Noon, Kathleen Otina, Chuck Colby, Ralph Mitchell, of course, Lisa Green and Rosemary Conley, and
Hi
I'm Rick
there.
Anderson. And we, again, appreciate you being here to talk about your budget. So
Thank you.
what we
Nice to
typically
be
do
here.
is we let you just go right in, and if you want to start with your budget lines, beginning with line 239, John can bring up a copy of the Article 2 while you talk about the budget lines, if that's what you like
Sure.
to do. Great.
So the budget line for line item 239 is the director's salary. And that's for 900 hours at a rate of a little over $23 an hour. So it's a part-time position. And the next item is swimming pool salaries, which in the past was $5,000, and we'd like to increase it to $8,000 based on our need for the pool to be serviced and up and running properly, since it has not unfortunately been able to be running since September of 2019. The park program salaries is funded through the park revenues. So that's where there's not an item, monetary item for that line. And the line item 242 is for activities and expenses, which we are asking for an increase because of the need for different types of equipment or PPE to order to run the park program and the pool program safely.
Okay, so, John, is there any way to make that smaller so that you can get over to the percentages? If not, I can just read them off. So
Does it not,
There we go.
is that showing
Yeah.
it now?
we're almost there. There you go. Excellent. So Kathleen, I just, again, not being familiar with the process, we're also, we're trying a whole bunch of new processes in order to have some continuity with the budget moving forward. We've been working on a lot of initiatives within the town, and collaboratively with the Board of Selectmen. We're looking to get together and start a strategic plan we've been talking about for quite a while. So one of the things that we ask is that you look at the department from the perspective of how you can make it better. Obviously, that's
Absolutely.
something you're committed to right out of the gate, but long-term, sometimes gets lost with, the day-to-day stuff where you're just starting out. But if you can, just keep in the back of your mind, we're looking to try to move the town in a direction where a lot of the research that we've done to date kind of gives us an idea of what kind of a community we want to become, to use the words of the former selectman chair.
And I honestly think that recreation has a huge part in that, because you do want to be able to involve, as many people as possible in the town for a variety of recreation programs. And I certainly am hoping to be able to do that. And one of the main ones is the swimming pool and the park program, which brings in the most revenue for the town through the recreation programs.
And then just where the goals sometimes meet with the reality is the fact that we also have a study, which you'll hear referred to as the Madden report, where we're given some limits on what each department is supposed to raise their entire budget by, and that is somewhere around the 2.5%. So as you can see, your budget right now is 13.5% higher than it was last year. I'm not saying that's not something that we aren't going to consider. Only thing I'm saying is that we're trying to use that basis for some continuity within all the budgets. That's all. So this is only the initial meeting, and we certainly appreciate the fact that you were able to get started and get right in and present the budget. So I'm going to open it up. John, you can pull that shared document down unless anybody still needs it, and we'll open it up to the board for more questions. And again, excuse me for 1 second before I take questions. I just want to introduce Kathleen. You have Joe Cunningham here with you as well.
Very grateful.
Yes,
for
how you
Joe's
doing?
support. Thank you.
Good, Joe. Thank you for tuning in as well.
No problem.
So with
Rick,
that,
I have one question for you before we moved on.
go ahead.
Obviously, with this all being a newer process for Kathleen, I had advised her to keep in mind, as she noted, the PPE, because we don't know where we're going to be come this spring and summer. We may be lifted out of COVID. If we are, though, we may still have PPE measures. So I know a lot of the increase was kind of based upon maybe extra staffing because we may be back in cohorts with all these kids, maybe extra PPE. So I did want to make note of that because I think when we're talking about children, we forget just how many of them there are out there in these
Right.
programs.
Good point, Joe. Yeah, so Lisa Green is the interim town administrator. She's on this call as well. And if there are COVID expenses within the recreation department, there is an avenue that you should be researching to get those expenses paid for. So let me just go quickly to Lisa and then I'll open it up to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I mean, the only sticky point is that currently anything that is going to be submitted for reimbursement has to be done by December 30th, which is a couple of weeks away, 3 weeks away. So if there's going to be any purchases for recreation for any of those items, they need to be purchased and then submitted to Ken Lytle, our town accountant, immediately so he can get that submission in. And the troubling part about it too is that they say that you're supposed to have everything, but for right now, I think they are accepting invoices to show that you've ordered the items and that they've been paid for.
So that is one of the parameters of getting reimbursed from the CARES Act is that
Right.
the purchases have to be made by, and the program may be extended. Is that correct, Lisa? There's a possibility?
There's a possibility, yes. Yeah. And our fire chief, Tim Greno, has done an excellent job with basically obtaining a lot of PPE. So we may have enough, to cover the summer staff based on what happens between now and the summer. But he has been excellent with obtaining all the PPE, and we have quite a bit of it here in town hall. So if it comes down to that, we may have enough to get you through.
Does that answer your question, Joe? You concerned?
Lisa, may I ask you a question about that real quick though?
Sure.
If we were to run the park program, if obviously everything's lifted, one of the suggestions I had for Kathleen was that we put hand sanitizing stations, portable, you know what I mean? Like, so kids can automatically go up. They don't have to ask a counselor, get into within 6 feet to get a squirt of hand sanitizer on their hands.
Yep.
Is that something that would be covered under that as well?
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
Yes, it would.
Okay, so good questions. I urge you to act on that sooner than later because, like I said, the window is closing on this particular part of the program. So,
Is there a vendor that you use for that, or would I just submit the request?
If you want to send me an email of what it is you're looking for, I can send that over to Chief Greno, and he can reach out to his vendors that he's been working with.
Wonderful.
okay, great. All right, so Rosemary.
So when we look at this, we look at the pool opening, the delay caused an extra cost. So most of these increases are COVID related, not just that. How would be a way to handle that, Lisa? It looks like they have to pay a little bit more to open the pool this year because there was such a extended, because we didn't open it last year.
That will not fall under COVID. For the reason being the pool was closed. Yes, we didn't open it because of COVID, but expenses that we will have to, that we'll have to pay to open it and have whatever maintenance done really would not fall under COVID.
It would be the additional expense on top of it. So it was closed because of COVID, incurring
Right.
an additional expense. So is there any way that we could divert that? So we would pay the standard and then see if we could divert that additional expense?
I would say no, because something similar was brought up when our IT, we want, purchasing laptops and things like that. The firewalls that went along with that under COVID per Tom O'Brien would not be considered as part of the COVID. So most likely this will fall under the same. And the way that he explained it is that if the newspapers get a hold that the town of Whitman opened their pool and performed extra maintenance on it because it hadn't been open because of COVID, that may be looked at negatively and saying, oh, the town of Whitman just tried to get their pool fixed up using COVID funds. So, I mean, I could certainly ask Tom O'Brien, but based on how he has explained why other expenses would not be covered, I'm almost guaranteeing that, paying to open the pool and pay the extra maintenance required would not fall under a COVID expense.
So
Okay.
we saved money. We saved money by not opening the pool
Mhm.
last year. So we could consider this money not as a percentage more, but part of the money that was saved maybe, because it is something that, if that's the case, just a thought.
Is that a possibility to use the money that hasn't been used yet if we use it by June 30th?
Money as far as COVID or money from
No, just
that?
money that was in the budget that has not been
Lisa,
used.
the biggest question is the fact that where the pool hasn't run in 2 years, or
Right.
by the time we open it, it wouldn't have run in 2 years.
Mhm.
We don't know if the pumps are even going to start. So
Right.
what happens if we have to replace a pump? Right?
It's not going to be COVID related because, again, they're going to look at it as anything that we purchase has to be directly COVID related, and that's not going to be considered COVID related. That's a recreation that is going to be open next year for the kids to swim in the summer. I can't imagine anyone in Plymouth County, the commissioners, looking at that expense as being COVID related.
And the reality, Joe, is that if that is determined that pumps are needed, there's no way that you're going to be able to get the pumps, pay for the pumps, and then submit reimbursement from now to December 30th. So,
Right.
so I guess, just thinking about the COVID side of it, we're really getting a little off the subject here where we're talking about the budget for the recreation. Notwithstanding the fact that some of your expenses may be reimbursable through COVID, but I think we just won't be, just for this initial meeting, we should be just focusing really on the budget for fiscal 22.
Well, that's why I was trying to figure that out, Rick, is because there's a very real chance. The pumps were a little shaky the last time it was open. There's a very real chance where they haven't run in 2 years that we are going to be looking to replace them. So it's a financial thing that we're trying to figure in right now, to figuring out how are we going to attack this as soon as we know.
Sure. Yep. No, understandable. Yep. And there are a few vehicles that we could use, capital. We could get the emergency. We could get an emergency appropriation too through the capital committee too. So there are several avenues, but obviously that's one of the paramount things for recreation is getting the pool up and running and getting it in use.
Definitely.
Okay, so Chuck, then
Kathleen. Kathleen first.
Well, my
Kathleen
question is simply, I think it builds on Kathleen Woodward's question. If there are unspent monies in fiscal 21 because of the not opening the pool this past summer, would those funds not be available in the spring of 2021 to see if the pumps need to be replaced and use that money?
Any
Wouldn't that
unused
have
money.
been returned?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead.
I was saying, any unused money has to be turned back into it will be turned back into the general fund. So
That's June 30th, right? I'm
Mhm.
talking about opening up the pool in May or April and seeing that there are problems with the pumps. So they still have money in the recreation budget that could be line item transfer request process probably, but use the fiscal 21 money to pay for repairs that might be needed.
That is a possibility.
That's what I was going to ask. When are you going to think about opening the pool? Because July and August, the money that was, I just looked real quick from fiscal 2020, which ended in June, $10,000 were returned back from the recreation budget. That was a third of your budget got turned back. Now that goes to free cash, so that's not available. But if you didn't use your budget over July and August, there should be a lot of money in there. And the person to talk to would be Ken, the accountant, to see what's available in your budget right now. And if if you're looking to, have to spend some money, I'm sure there's money in that budget,
There's
this
a
year's
little
budget.
bit, yeah, there's a little bit less than $5,000 in the budget.
That's all? Wow,
The
okay.
revolving account.
All right, well, is that in the revolving fund or in the budget? In the revolving fund. I'm
Revolving
talking about in your budget. That would be different. Your revolving fund is separate. So you have, you had $32,000 voted last year according to our Article 2 for your budget. And if you didn't run the rec department over the summer, I'm sure there's a lot of unspent money in that, but in those lines.
Yeah, that's right. When did Ollie actually leave? I mean,
Well, I mean,
So
not
some-
only you got all the expense. I mean, you have $6,100 in expense for this year, July and August. That maybe
Right.
none of that was spent. Certainly, the $5,000 in the swimming pool salaries wasn't spent from 21, unless you were working them in June. Well, no, it wouldn't even been there.
No,
It
we
would be
wouldn't.
July and August. Yeah. So, I mean, there could be $11,000 sitting in there that was not spent over the summer that was budgeted for this past summer in this current budget.
Right, to open the pool, you had a budget for an amount to open the pool last year, correct?
Well, that might have been in the 20, I don't know how they
It wasn't
allocated.
opened, so,
But if
so
they,
it should still be there.
well, that could have been the $10,000 that got returned from the 2020 budget, so, I mean, but still, talk to Ken and see
Right.
where, what your expenses are to date and see how much money are in all, I mean, you've got basically 3 line items. Ken, how much money is left in, because it went unspent this summer. So you could have $11,000 in there right now that,
So
like I
Ken-
said, we can transfer it at the end of the year.
Ken Lytle, it won't be on our meeting. He typically does come to our meetings, but he won't be available for tonight's meeting. So Kathleen Woodward and Joe, I would definitely suggest that you make some time to get with him to talk about what's left in the existing budget. So to
Thank you.
give yourself some idea of what to expect. Okay, other questions? Okay. Well, seeing none, this is the initial meeting. So Kathleen, what will happen next if we complete all our initial meetings with all budget managers the second week of January, and then we start looking at the entire Article 2, which your budget is part of. And then, like I said, we try to use the guidelines that we have established and take a look at, where you want to go with this department. It sounds like you have some great ideas, a fresh face, and some focus is really what this department needed. So we are very encouraged by you being here.
Wonderful. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the
Okay.
nice warm welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, and we look
Thank you.
forward to working with you throughout the year.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
everybody.
Okay, next up for budget meetings, we have the assessor, and we have Kathy Keefe. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
Oh, yeah.
Good to see, good to
So we
see you.
know, you know everyone here. We have one new member, John Noon. I don't know that you have met John. Kathy Keefe is the assessor. John Galvin will put your budget starting with line 34. Is that correct? And if
That's
you
correct.
we'll just have you just get started on your budget and review your lines, if you will.
Okay, yep, so it's a straight up 2.5% increase. There are 2 lines in the entire budget that are gonna remain fixed. Those being the certification salary and then the revaluation expense for Patriot properties. And so we sort of backed into an increase of the 2.5%, giving all the staff a 2.5% raise, and then bumping back our expense line up to whatever the 2.5% overall increase would allow us to do. My board, so obviously with COVID, I did not attend summer conference, which I usually do have the privilege to attend, and that gets me points towards my recertification as a Massachusetts accredited assessor. So that didn't happen this year. We're hoping that it will happen next year. So these are the points that I use towards, recertifying myself, which has to be done every 3 years. Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Well, like I said, this is our first meeting with departments, and we appreciate the fact that 2.5% is your entire increase for the year, is in the guidance of the Madden report that we're using. So does anybody have any questions for Kathy? John, can you pull down the screen so I can see?
Sure can.
I can only do 5 at a time. Okay, anybody? Okay, so we will, and as you know, John is your liaison to your department. So if anything comes up during the time before we get back with your department to talk about where we end up with
Okay.
Article 2, if you have questions, you can certainly get a hold of him, get a hold of me.
Excellent.
And if we have something changed from this end too, we will definitely get back to you.
That's fair enough.
All right. Thank you for taking the time.
All right. Thanks for your hard work.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, we're rocketing right in. Marcy, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, it's great to have you here. You are our third budget manager for presentation tonight. I believe you know everybody on the committee with the exception of John Noon is one of our new members. John, so if you want to, John Galvin will put your budget up starting with line 225, and you can just go right through your budget if you will.
Sure. I was instructed to keep it at a 0% salary increase. It does look, looks like you guys got the right numbers because there was this discrepancy with Article 2 with our union staff got added in a separate article. So those numbers shouldn't be much of an increase. I did increase the expense line and added a part-time custodian. As you guys are aware, in I believe it's 2019, we cut the cleaning for the whole town, and I believe it was a little short-sighted considering what we're dealing with right now. And the town hall custodian has been trying to clean all the other town buildings, and it's just not feasible. And as soon as the library is open to the public, we are going to probably investigate hiring a part-time custodian, even if it is before July 1st. We do have some money in the assistant library director's line. I just filled the position. She is starting next week. So that position has been vacant since March. We've been very fiscally conservative. We've turned back money to you guys every year, typically in the salary lines when staff gets switches positions or they leave. We haven't always filled them right away, so that's money that's gone back into the town's revolving funds, if you will. This year, it's a different story. We've seen some dramatic cuts, obviously, in our fines and fees line because we have not been open since March, where we haven't collected overdue fines and we haven't paid for print jobs or faxing, if you will, and we've still had that demand, albeit smaller than if we're open to the public. We ran out of money in our expense line this year in November. We have not gotten our state aid money. That typically comes in January. It has been delayed this year. The state hasn't certified their budget yet. So as soon as that money comes in, then we do have a little extra money to play with, but typically we have a lot bigger fines and fees budget to play with, and we just don't have it this year. I don't anticipating that changing rapidly. Even if we do get open to the public sometime the beginning of next year, with the fact that everyone's quarantining their items. Most libraries are checking their items in fine-free, so we're just not going to see that, and it's never been a guaranteed revenue stream. And we've had some expenses that have come up this year. We had to cut down some trees that were on the roof of the library, and that was $4,000. So there is a chance that that expense line, that utilities and maintenance line, that usually it's pretty decent, we may have to come to you sometime this spring and ask for a reserve funds transfer. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, a couple of things right off the gate. Now we'll open it up to the rest of the board. We appreciate the fact that you've submitted your budget as was requested with no increases in salary. We are trying to maintain each budget within the guidelines that were established in trying to keep each budget not increasing more than 2.5%. You're pretty much in that area with the 2.9 total. So the other thing that we just discussed with recreation was the expenses related to COVID. Are you in the queue with any additional expenses that were related to COVID for reimbursement?
I just submitted a couple. We had some additional plexiglass put in. We had the touchless faucets put in the public bathrooms. The town is doing, they're looking at fancy electronic signage for town hall, and they think they're going to be able to do ours as well if they can get a big enough discount on that, and if the COVID funds are willing to pay for it. The library was able to secure some laptops for staff, which will be amazing, considering all of our meetings are now being done via Zoom. We don't have any computers on the staff. We don't have any cameras on the staff computers. So it makes Zoom a challenge for them. So I did have Josh buy the laptops for each of the staff, and I believe those are coming in.
Great. All right, good. All right, John, could you pull down the Article 2? I will now open it up. Anybody else have any questions for Marcy, Kathleen?
I just have a quick question for you, Marcy, because last year when you made the presentation, I was new to the FinCom, and I remember you saying that in order to be certified, there's a certain percentage of money that in the library budget that has to be allocated for, I don't know if it's expenses or what, but how close to that line are you?
So our 16% of our budget has to be used to spend on materials.
Okay.
That number is about 70,000. So the closer that expense line we can get to 70,000, the better off we're going to be. We do get state aid, and it's roughly about $20,000. So that usually offsets it. Right now, we're just in a really big issue is because we don't have the fines and fees to fall back on, and the state aid usually doesn't come until the beginning of the year. And this year, it looks like it's even more further delayed.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? So Marcy, one of the other things too that I try to touch on with each department is the fact that we're also working towards a strategic plan. And you know, a lot of times the libraries are really on the cutting edge and the leading, taking the lead on that too. So we just ask you to try to think of ways where, you know, your department, the library, and that serves the town of Whitman can improve and look towards the future of where you want to be, say, in 5-10 years. That's all.
Absolutely. When we did our strategic plan, I want to say now almost 2 years ago. So it is new and current. Stephanie was able to receive a $10,000 Mind in the Making grant to do an outdoor play space. So, and it's going to be designed for smaller children, where the town park playground is much more suitable for bigger kids. And we're going to do lots of programs around it and a lot more literacy. And so she's going to do some story walks while we're closed. So it's really thinking outside the box of what we are able to do when we're closed, but also going forward, how do we want to serve the community, and how do we want to engage in the community? We've done almost 3,000 curbside appointments since the end of May. Our e-materials have exploded this year. So that line is constantly something that we're investigating and trying to buy more electronic materials. And obviously we saw a dramatic need this year.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you are able to redirect your resources to focus on the needs of the community during a pandemic. I think it speaks volume about having a strategic plan and using it as effectively as the library has. I think it's a testament to how the town could build one. And maybe, Lisa, I could redirect to you. Have you received a copy of the library's strategic plan to forward to our consultant?
I have not, no.
Okay, so maybe that would be something that they could
Yeah.
possibly integrate into our report, maybe.
Yes, and I can send that along to you, Lisa.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, Rosemary?
Lisa, electronic equipment apparently some is being accepted and some isn't. Do we know what the CARES for Plymouth County is doing? If they would allow the ebooks, it seems like we have a high, we have a population that is sensitive and would probably need it. Is there any way that we could double check if that's something that the CARES Act would cover, more ebooks or other things to help facilitate that?
I can check with Ken. He has all of the, the regulations on that, so I can certainly check with him on that.
And I know that's a mixed bag. I think that some
Right.
places are accepting it, some aren't. But I just want to see where we are in Plymouth County. I also wanted to ask about the hotspots at the library. Again, we have an older population, and we don't want to have people isolated. Have we increased those? Have we thought about using CARES money for that sort of thing?
Yeah, we have 2, and they're constantly checked out. We have increased it from 1 week to 2 weeks. We have 2 families that are pretty much using them so that they can do online learning, and they're going back and forth between like parent and child. When the schools closed down in March, the superintendent sent an email saying, oh, the library has hotspots if you need them. We have 2.
That's a good way to get overwhelmed.
Yes, we'd love to get more. Unfortunately, it's not so much the actual cost of the hotspot. Those are usually either free or less nominal fee. It's the service contract, and the ones we have is about 40. Each one is $40 a month. It's unlimited data. So I'd love to talk to Josh about seeing if there's, like, we have 2 for the Verizon that's under state contract, and that's how we get the deal we get. I'd love to see if like maybe T-Mobile has a cheaper plan that we could get maybe some more, and see if it has as good coverage. Every day there's someone in our library parking lot using our Wi-Fi that does bleed out there. And whether they're doing schoolwork or playing roulette for money, we don't ask questions, but there is a need. And as we try and fill it, we're seeing how our hands are tied.
Is there any way we could talk to Ken about that being something, just doing a service plan for until the COVID's over? That would be something we would definitely be COVID related for the community, I would assume.
We can certainly try.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
that.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, Marcy. Any other questions for Marcy? Okay, as you know, Marcy, Rosemary is your liaison to the Finance Committee. So if you have any questions, please reach out to her, reach out to me. If we have questions as we move forward in the process, we'll be completing this initial meetings with all the departments in the second week of January. And we'll certainly get back with you if there's anything we need to follow up on within your budget.
All right. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you for your time and the work that you do.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, so that exhausts our budget meetings. I didn't go over the agenda just we're saving time where we had the presentation of the reserve fund transfer. So new business, we do have, that was the only other thing on new business was the reserve fund transfer. Old business, we have subcommittee reports. Dave, still, you don't see Dave logging in, John? No, he said he may be checking into the meeting. Okay, so
No.
as far as the Building Facilities Capital Expenditure Committee, I know they did meet, so we'll have to wait for his update to next week, I would imagine. There's been no meetings of the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee. Middle School Building Committee, John, you said wasn't meeting?
Yeah, we were scheduled to meet last week and we did not meet. And I heard from Chairman Small, he reached out to me after I told him I wasn't sure why they canceled it. And he basically said there was really nothing to go over at that point. So it didn't make sense for us to drag everybody in to meet for 10 minutes. So as of this point, we're meeting sometime in January. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. So Whitman Hanson Regional School District Assessment, non-mandated busing. As you know, I did forward the letters that were requested last week. So just to explain a little bit too, the reason why I didn't send the letters right away, I think I explained in the email, was that if I'm mailing a letter, I don't like to send it electronically to other people so that the person that is the intended recipient doesn't, gets questioned on it before he actually has the letter. So I think going forward, where the committee wants the information immediately, I will do them all electronically and just more or less as a formality, sign the copies and mail them and put them in the boxes after the fact. So that being said, both letters are out. Kathleen, have you got any feedback from the regional district?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I met with Bob Hayes yesterday because I felt there was the potential for a mudslinging contest to build up between us, and I don't want that to happen. I did watch the school committee meeting, and I think some words had more emotion in it than I think retrospectively people would have been comfortable owning up to. So I believe my meeting with Bob was productive because at this point the superintendent intends not to to send us the information we requested. And after speaking with Bob, he took copious notes and he said that he would follow up on it. So I am hopeful that we will be back on track, receiving the information that we requested. And I made the point that the items we requested this year, word for word, are identical to what we requested last year, and there was no kickback last year about us overstepping our bounds. And that has to do with the regional agreement assessment, the school budget. As far as the non-mandated busing is concerned, I cannot imagine why asking for some backup information in this year where 500 kids are learning remotely, and even those children who are going to school are only being bused 2 days a week, there has to be some savings out of that $400,000 appropriation that we made. So I simply wanted the backup information. How do we calculate this? I've never seen how the non-mandated busing is calculated. We're just handed a bill by, I guess, the transportation people at the schools. And so I discussed that at length with Bob, saying there has to be some savings, anticipated savings, and that I would like the finance committee to receive the explanation for how these charges are calculated. And he was very cordial. I have a very cordial relationship with Bob. So I anticipate going forward that have a positive relationship with our counterparts in the school committee.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you reaching out. Yes, we certainly don't want to have an adversarial relationship with the regional school district. They're our biggest department. We count on the work that they do to educate the students of both towns, and so that's good. We are meeting with them on the next week, so we look forward to getting some information. I have not gotten any communications back. I did check the mailbox today at the town hall, so I can't report on what the reply was to either of the letters that went out from the finance committee, and I will speculate until we do get the communication. So again, I concur with you, Kathleen. I think it's important that we maintain a civil discourse, and hopefully we can get some of the information so we can move forward on a plan to implement a pay-to-ride program in our lifetime. I would hope, you know, so. Anybody else on any of that topic? Very good. All right, we do have 3 meeting minutes. I would really like to get, see if we could get them disposed of, since Samantha worked very hard to get all 3 of them for tonight's meeting. Lisa, did you have anything else that you wanted to add on anything to do, any selectmen backup? I know I did talk to you today about the audit. Just wanted to keep that on the burner as well. Do you have any updated information regarding the regional school district audit with the town of Hanson?
So the only information that I have on it is just basically a timeline of when the auditors expected to begin, the process. Unfortunately, I really wasn't part of the process in bringing on the auditor. That was Whitman, that was Frank Lynham and John Stanbrook who put that together. So I'm just kind of coming into it in the tail end. And unfortunately, Frank really didn't let me know where he was pulling the money from as far as payment on that. So I have to kind of look through notes to see if I could find if he has notes on that. But as far as, I have not heard that the auditor has started any of this yet. I have reached out to John, and I'm waiting to hear back to see if the auditor has submitted to him perhaps another timeline. And that's all I know about it for right now.
Okay, excellent. I did put it, as you notice, on the agenda, so I'll keep it there as a placeholder, because this is something that we should follow up on. Also, I did add to old business the annual town report, which is another thing that's kind of coming up on us fast. So usually what I do is draft some notes, an initial copy, and get it out to the committee, and we'll start talking about it in the next couple of weeks. We haven't gotten, usually we get notified about when it's due, so we got some time. So. Okay, that's it for that then. Anybody have any questions for Lisa? All right, we'll plow right into our meeting minutes. Lisa, you can stay if you want to, or we thank you for tuning in as usual and being part of our meeting.
Oh, good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night, Lisa.
All right, so the first meeting minutes is from November 17th, starting on page 345. Does anybody not have a copy of the meeting minutes? They're all emailed at various times.
I only have November 17th. I don't have any other meeting minutes.
That's what I have.
Really? You didn't get the other 2 copies?
I only have, you sent, on December 3rd, you sent November 17th, and that was the last email that I see for meeting minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
Yep, all right, very good. Then we'll take care of that one. I apologize. Samantha did send the 24th and December 1st meetings. I remember thanking her, and I may have forwarded the wrong thing, which I have done before. I maybe have forwarded my reply like I did John earlier today, so it didn't have the attachment, maybe.
No, I don't see any emails other than just that one.
All right, so we'll do the November 17th, page 345. Kathleen.
I just want to say up front, Rick, that I have a problem with the wording on page 347. It's the discussion on exactly what we just talked to Lisa about, the forensic audit. And I didn't have enough time to prepare a suggested amendment to these minutes. So it's that paragraph that said Mrs. Otina asked if both Whitman and Hanson. The wording is not exactly what I recall saying.
Right. So I did make some notes on that, and I was going to ask you if you wanted to amend. And basically, it's just changing the word study to audit in 3 places. I think, and if you do that, it changes the entire tone of the, but if you'd like more time, it is your statement, so I would rather you make the edits if you want.
I would, because the statement that it says that Mrs. Otina stated that she thought it was stated that the funding would be a reserve fund transfer in the amount of 20,000. That's not really what I said. And I remember the conversation because Frank was at our meeting and he reported that the audit was going to be significantly less than what Whitman and Hanson initially anticipated. And I said, that means you won't be asking us for a reserve fund transfer.
Yeah, okay, so that's fine. I will entertain a motion, then we table the meeting minutes from November 17th to a time where the edits can be made by the individuals who.
I'll submit them, and I'll submit them to Samantha in writing so she can incorporate it into revised minutes for our consideration.
Okay.
I'll make
very
that
good.
motion. Chuck
Okay, we have a
motions.
motion, and we have a second.
Yep.
I'll go around the board. John Galvin,
Yes.
John Noon,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Ralph? Yeah, I'll take that as a yes. And Chuck
Yes.
and Rosemary?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So I apologize for the other two meeting minutes, but we'll just, we'll take care of them all at our meeting next week.
Mhm.
I'll get them out as soon as this meeting closes. So that, as far as the agenda goes, there are no communications in the box. We did hear from the interim town administrator, and the accountant did send an email, which I forwarded prior to the meeting. He said he just updated some of the information in the Article 2. Does anybody have any questions regarding the updates in Article 2?
No.
So I think it's great to have it updated for every meeting. I find myself printing it out every time, so I'm loaded with paper. But
Old school.
yeah, that's me.
Look on the
All
bright
right.
side. You don't have to carry
What was that, Ralph?
that. You don't have to carry it with you. It's already there.
That's right. Yes. All right. So does anybody else have anything else they want to bring up? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion in a second. We'll go around the board. John Galvin,
Yes.
John Noon,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Rosemary.
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes too.